I think with any social change, any form of progress, there's steps forward and then there's definitely steps back. And I think what we talked about today and some things we showed today is that it's a bit of a mixed bag.
I think there is a slight problem with the industry's representation of LGBTQ people. Often it can be quite tokenistic. Like I feel like this Pride season, and the same with last year's and the years before, it's just like rainbows everywhere, but it's quite surface level. For me, I think we need to move to a place where it's not just about rainbows, but it's about like the people who are from that community and humanizing that issue.
I fundamentally believe that brands and their communications, advertising, marketing, and the position that brands take has a more influential opportunity than governments or politics. The way that people connect with brands is often so much stronger. So if brands aren't understanding how to portray the LGBTQ community in a positive and uplifting and an empowering way, then of course that message just gets translated and then seeps into societal constructs, communities, and people don't understand the community in the way that I think they want to be understood. I think that the industry has a willingness, and I'm kind of optimistic always that they have a willingness to want to improve and to get better. I definitely think that we've seen a big movement. There's a huge amount more to do though.
So we found that more 18 to 24s identified as somewhere in between on the sexuality spectrum than identified as completely heterosexual. Often people think it's a niche thing that I've got to consider. Actually, for this audience, it's an important audience. For many brands, it's not a niche thing. And the second part of the research was, how does this community feel about advertising today? So some great scores in terms of visibility and representation, but we've got a long way to go in terms of how that representation comes across. For an industry as a whole, I think we're only starting to realise and to come to terms with the fact that every message that we put out and every campaign has a social impact in terms of how people feel about gender, race, sexuality.
The industry can do better by speaking to the community that they're trying to represent.
People think that these kind of campaigns, which are about diversity, is just about diversity in front of the camera, but I think if there was more diversity behind the camera, there'd be a greater understanding. People wouldn't be making the same mistakes that they're making because there'd be someone to call it out in the boardroom rather than someone on Instagram calling out your brand once it's happened. And then in terms of the diversity in front of the camera, it's about understanding that that's tiered, and it's not just about having hot white gay guys kissing each other, it's about having trans women as well, and people of colour who are LGBT, and people of different faiths. That's where diversity lies for me. And then finally, it's about not being tokenistic. An LGBTQ person is not just for Pride season, be an ally all year round.